Saskatchewan is knocking on Ottawa's door for the second time in less than a month, this time a bit harder. The province is once again asking the federal government to deliver federal aid to canola farmers in the wake of China's ban on those imports. In a letter to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Premier Scott Moe writes, "I was initially encouraged that your government seemed prepared to act quickly. However, it has been close to 1 month. Saskatchewan is becoming increasingly concerned that your government has offered no concrete support for Canada's canola producers." So, has there been any communication between the province and Ottawa since that first meeting last month? And what is the situation like now for canola farmers? And Premier Scott Moe joins me now. Hi, Premier Moe. Nice to see you again. Thank you for your time.
Great to see you, Bessie.
I want to start off with this letter. You had met with the Prime Minister at the end of March, and at the time I read all the reports coming out, you seemed optimistic coming out of that meeting. Has the federal government really given you any concrete reason to be less optimistic now a few weeks later?
Well, we're running out of time. Our Saskatchewan producers and Western Canadian producers are lined up at the edge of the field, and in the southern areas are actually in the field, and it's time for our federal government to make a decision if they truly want to move forward and support this industry, our agricultural industry, in any way in their access to capital here this spring. They've had over 3 weeks now. March 26th was the day I spoke with the Prime Minister and had issued him the first letter, sent him the first letter, of which he seemed receptive to moving forward in this type of a decision. Ministers Bebeau and Carr also seemed receptive when we met with them a few days later. So we had asked the federal government to again reconsider decisions such as this, as they said they would, and it's time for them to make a decision and move forward.
Can you explain exactly what you're hoping to get from them? This is essentially sort of cash advances and raising the limit. Can you explain how it works for people who live outside of Saskatchewan or who are not canola farmers?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, this doesn't address the challenge that we have in the market access of our canola products into China. That can only be addressed through engagement with the Chinese at the officials and ultimately the diplomatic level, of which we've offered our support as well. What this does is expands an existing program. We have a program, a cash advance program, and access to capital to seed the crops here in Western Canada of about $400,000 that is then repaid, a portion of it with interest, a small portion without, at the end of the crop year when the crop comes in. We've asked that to be expanded from $400,000 to $1 million on a temporary basis, and allow it to be to interest-free on a temporary basis, so that the ag producers in Western Canada and in Saskatchewan can have that additional access to capital for the many millions of dollars in many cases that they need access to get this year's crop in the ground to drive our provincial economy and our Western Canadian economy.
How much extra is there an estimate how much extra that would cost the federal government, and is there any provincial contribution available?
On this particular program, this is a federal program that is offered to crop insurance customers here in the province, and it's an easy method, if you will, to ensure that it encapsulates and includes all ag producers, not just those challenged with canola access, but also those with pulse access into India or durum wheat access into India, or even some that may be challenged into other markets. So this does encompass all, it includes all ag producers likely in the nation. There'd be a small cost of the interest piece to the federal government, but as I said, this is a short-term Advil, if you will, to cure some of the symptoms that we're having. This in no way cures the ultimate challenge, which is we need to have diplomats, have scientific officials on the ground in China engaging with the Chinese on the importance of our products, our good, clean canola products coming into that market.
And I want to ask you about those market access challenges in a few seconds. I just want to, though, make clear, is there any provincial financial assistance being offered to farmers affected by the issues with canola?
This particular program is strictly a federal program. There's no
outside of
opportunity
this program.
for the provincial government to actually outside of this program, yes, the provincial government participates annually in other other programs that we have in partnership with our federal government, such as agri-stability and our crop insurance program, to ensure we offer the business risk programs, if you will, for the agriculture industry, and have for a number of years, and have increased those as our production has increased on a per acre basis across Western Canada. So we continue to engage with the industry and to provide our supports through a number of different programs into the agriculture industry.
What I'm trying to get at, Premier,
but this particular one
right.
is strictly federal.
Yeah, no, I understand that the program is federal. I guess, though, if the ask is for more federal assistance, is the province also willing to address the heightened need with money of its own?
Well, we are doing that through these other the other programs that we have that we cost share on a basis with the federal government. Though, but they do. There are triggers that come into place where they actually do begin to support the industry at this point of time when we actually start to realize losses in the industry. They're business risk programs that quite likely are coming into play over the course of the next number of weeks and months. So yes, the province is participating and has always had a structure to ensure that we are there to participate.
What about those market access challenges? Let's talk about that for a second. We know that, for example, a few weeks ago, the federal government said that they were looking to send a delegation much like the one that you're describing, but they needed China's approval. Are their hands really tied here until that approval comes in?
Well, they need to continue to seek that approval, if you will, at whatever level we can get people on the ground in China ultimately to engage on what is a challenge with in Saskatchewan, our second largest export market, the Chinese market. The reason we are selling canola into that market is one, because it's a high quality product, amongst the very highest quality product canola produced in the world, and two, it's a market that we have worked hard to establish, and it's a market that we have valued. So we've offered every support to the federal government with Deputy Ministers of Agriculture and Trade and Export here from the province to attend and to apply with the federal government so that we can have those scientific officials on the ground. We'll also offer every opportunity to participate in anything that could come on the diplomatic front with engagement with China. So we need to keep applying with whatever names are on the visa application ultimately that we can. And if that needs to escalate to ministers of the federal government, then that is maybe where it needs to escalate. But this is a market that we absolutely need access to in the months and years ahead. It's an important market to agriculture, and it's an important market in fairness to other products that we have across the nation as well. And we've had a strong trading relationship for so many years now, and it's one we want to continue into the future. I
just want to be clear, are you saying that if China does not grant access to this sort of diplomatic group, or the group that the federal government has put forth, that ministers like Minister Bibeau or Carr or Freeland should themselves try to travel to China to make the case?
Listen, whatever it takes. This isn't a market that we're willing to let just go by the wayside in this province, and I dare say in this nation. So whatever it takes to engage with the Chinese officials, the Chinese people involved with respect to our market access, our strong trading relationship in general, whatever it takes, we need to engage at whatever level we possibly can right now.
Are you concerned, given the likelihood that this is in fact not about canola and instead tied to the detainment and the arrest of Meng Wanzhou and the case of Huawei's CFO? Are you afraid that because it's about that and not canola, that those efforts might prove fruitless?
Well, our federal government is our entity that we elect to represent Canadians from an industry perspective, but also from a relationship perspective. So the fact that we are not in active discussions or conversations in China with the federal government I think is concerning for us here in this province for certain, and I think for all Canadians. This is a conversation that needs to happen. It needs to happen, and we need to be persistent in ensuring that we have, as I said, whatever level, whether it be officials at the scientific level or officials within the ministries, federal and provincial combined, industry I know would be ready to participate, or whether it needs to be elected officials and ministers that are attempting to engage in this conversation. China is an important trading partner for Saskatchewan, an important trading partner for Canada. It's a trading partner that so many careers and jobs and industries rely on in our nation, that we need to engage at whatever level we are able to do so, and I ask the federal government to do just that.
I'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Premier Moe. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Vashi.